Hey, how about them tops, son?
All day. SEC boys. SEC. They supposed to be SEC. Crazy all day, baby.
You're listening to the Red Out Podcast.
Welcome into another Red Out Podcast. I'm Devin, Matt here. We're going to talk some Western sports. Kind of upsetting 100 miles of hate week for us. Kind of sad. But anyway,
You get emotional.
yeah, just anytime you lose to middle, it is always a bad day. And that's my opinion. We could be playing checkers or anything else, and I would be completely upset about it. So debate,
How is our
chess,
checkers team, by the
checkers.
way? Yeah.
Kings. They are kings. Or
And
queens.
Are they
Whatever.
still undefeated?
Yes.
Okay.
They keep their back rows locked in, so they're set. They're good to go.
Okay. In college, do you have to jump when you have a? I
don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know. Seriously though, I don't know house rules how that works.
So, yeah, what's like the real rules of checkers?
I don't know. I don't know how you played as a kid, but my strategy was always to keep the back row. You never let the back row go, and then once you can start getting some jumps, then you can go in there and take care of business. But it's okay. So we've kind of had some interesting news pop up, and I will link the article. But as the MAC conference expands, keep an eye on Western Kentucky popped up on Fan Nation here, and it is a very interesting article that kind of proposes or props up the question of Western Kentucky to the MAC. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting because the first time this came around a couple years ago, we were in complete disaster mode where we were just done with Conference USA. We didn't know who would be coming in, and we didn't know how good the teams that they had talked about coming in would be. And now, you have, so these teams have come in and done a pretty good job for the most part. Sam Houston is contributing in multiple sports. Jacksonville State, Liberty's been amazing for the conference. Going to New Year's Six Bowl in the first year they're there, and all their programs are competitive. New Mexico State was a surprise in football. So, literally every team that came in contributed and seems like they could actually do something for the conference. And so that was different than we have a few teams left from Conference USA, and we don't know who's coming in. Now, you've got the TV deal that, some people feel like is shackling us down from going anywhere. I don't know. But it's a lot different, a lot more stable. I think as far as how I view the MAC, I still view it as an option. I'd like more information. For example, the geography stuff, obviously actually adding UMass, which was the team that was added, so it gives them 13 teams, is probably not great geographically for us, but all the rest of the teams are within 10-hour drives. So in theory, you could drive to whoever in the MAC, and also the teams could drive wherever they needed to. So if that was the case, my questions will be, how much do you save by not flying everywhere? How much money does that save? What's the TV deal with the MAC? What's in the works? Because I think they renegotiate their deal in a couple of years. So those are the kind of questions that come through my head immediately. So I'm kind of let's get some more information, but I'm actually okay staying in Conference USA at this point, unless the MAC just blows us away.
I agree. I'm not. To me, it seems like there's two camps. So you have the people who are, oh my God, the world's on fire. Western can't go to the MAC. This is the worst thing I've ever heard of in my life. And then you have people who are like, if we don't join the MAC, Western is going to have to close their doors. And you go, I don't see it as, it's not black and white. It's not all or nothing. I'm kind of like you. I want to get a little more information and see how things are going to play out. But looking at the map, they've got 5, 6, 7 teams, 6 or 7 teams that are in Ohio, essentially. So, I don't know if y'all know this or not. Cousin Todd is from Ohio. So that's going to be appealing to him. And he's AD. I'm just saying, I'm not saying. But like you said, with the grant of rights deal, it almost to me seems like a promise ring, so to speak. It's a
How are you
promise
going to
ring.
connect this up,
So,
Devin?
yeah, well, here's
How
my
deep
thing.
do we want to go here?
Well, how much is it going to cost for us to get out of it? So, yes, this is not a literal thing, but your middle school aged
I'm just saying,
crushes,
promise rings get unpromised
they do, and that's probably
when.
what's going to happen. We're gonna be walking off with the metaphorical meme of the guy looking back like, what? And that's the Mac, and we're holding hands with Conference USA going. So there's that. There, I give you all the visual, but I don't know if it's advantageous or not. I am still a huge advocate for Hawaii to the Big East, so I will keep pushing for that. One day it
Yeah,
will happen. The Pac-12 is not the place for them. They need to come to the Big East. They need to fly to every game. The world is flat. What's the big deal? I don't know.
yeah,
So,
100%.
anyway,
Oh,
but yeah,
sorry,
I mean,
hilarious joke.
anyway, but yes, there are aspects to the MAC that are not appealing. Buffalo in October, because I'm pretty sure it starts snowing in October there.
Yeah,
They get 4 foot of snow in
valid.
January and they don't blink an eye. Um, yeah, and to the people who are well off enough to drive or fly with the team to Miami to go to games, I tip my hat to you. But if we change conferences, things are going to happen. So there's that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
think Eastern, Central, Toledo, Akron, Bowling Green of Ohio, Miami of Ohio, they may not be appealing, but if they're more competitive and they help us out, so be it.
yeah, I mean, like competition wise and stuff, like there may be some downgrades. There are some people that are like, it's an absolute downgrade and everything and stuff, and it's like, well, I don't really think that's
Yeah,
necessarily true. There have been some their football has at times been better than Conference USA. They've been down recently, but they had Western Michigan in the New Year's Six well before any Conference USA team ever made it.
yeah,
I believe they had another, maybe it was Western Michigan again. I can't remember. They might have done it twice. I don't know, but anyway, I mean, they have some quality programs. Some of your other stuff is going to be comparable. I mean, to me, it comes down to, um, what if we get into the MAC, is it actually going to be helpful, or is it literally just going sideways in the name of stability? And will it actually be stable? I mean, those are all questions that, like, there's perception that the MAC means stability, but it also could mean a basic death sentence to any kind of growth for the programs. So I mean, it's just kind of how you look at it. Right now, I don't have enough information. I want more details. That's just kind of where I'm at. Like I don't know which way I stand. I certainly don't think we need to make a hasty decision, just jump in and go for it. But like for example, if UConn joined the MAC and then there was another team that was decent, and then Western was invited to be like, well, shoot, we can be in a conference with UConn and basketball, and that would be interesting to have some quality, really quality programs in there. So I'd just be interested to see how it shakes out. Let's wait a little bit and see what happens.
well, here's my thing. A few years back, 2.5 years back, whatever, when the alignment really shook Conference USA, and we had teams like Marshall who jumped ship, ODU, and several others who went to Sunbelt, who went to other conferences or whatever,
Yeah.
we had people saying, well, let's go back to the Sun Belt. And I think for the average fan, going back to the Sun Belt would be a detriment. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're average Joe fan, yes, we see Marshall's going to be there, ODU, North Texas, whoever, and you go, okay, we're like, that's competition. Those are good teams. But as to the average fan who goes, well, the Sun Belt is where we were. Why are we going back? Are we stepping back? That's my thought. Does the
Yeah.
average fan see that move and go, uh-oh? Whereas, you see the conference like the MAC and they go, oh, well, the MAC, ooh,
That's new.
it's a new
Yeah.
thing. Ooh, it looks so much fun in Buffalo, New York.
Well, the bottom line with the Sun Belt, if we got offered to be back in the Sun Belt, I think it would be a beautiful fit again. I mean, I think in hindsight we made the mistake of leaving because right after we
Because it
left,
was a big one.
yeah,
Because we were
what
looking at a better,
yeah.
newer, bigger, yeah,
Yeah, I
what
mean
we thought
Conference
was
USA
better.
had the better reputation and whatever. But as soon as we left, we ended up finding out that the programs that were left were kind of in the doldrums and weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So you had some really bad timing and stuff like that. But the Sun Belt also made really good decisions and brought in like Coastal Carolina and bringing in Marshall was a good move recently. Louisiana Lafayette is a good program, even though they try to act like they're only Louisiana. Um, I'm trying to think of Appalachian State, James
Yeah.
Madison, like those were like huge, massively needle moving, awesome moves for them,
Yeah.
especially in football, but they're also good in other sports. I mean, really, really solid football conference, arguably possibly going to pass the AAC in quality. So, I mean, if we got a chance to go back to the Sun Belt, I mean, people can poo-poo the fact that we're going back, but I would jump all over that if I was Todd Stewart. But we'll see how leadership goes.
So, question for you. Do you think, well, let me start with this. Which conference do you think would be the best conference for Western to move to other than the MAC?
It'd have to be the Sun Belt. I think the AAC made mistakes. I said
Yeah.
this the whole time. I think they went to market grabbing and stuff, and that might help them have some decent TV deals and stuff and all that. But we'll see if it ends up working out for them. They obviously have more money right now, but how's that going to work out when Charlotte goes down, when FAU comes back to earth, when UTSA proves that they're not a sustainable model? I mean, there's a bunch of them that is kind of like these are all risks because they're not proven programs with longevity. And so I think the Sun Belt has programs that have proven that they can sustain a model and like actually be really good programs. I think that's what ultimately matters is competitive, pretty even, solid conference versus we can draw more people to our games, but we have no brands and we have no tradition.
I mean, I agree for the most part. I think the AAC could be a competitive conference for us, though, with some aspects. Um, but I think there's aspects of both that are non-competitive. Case in point, Arkansas State, your favorite place to go. Um, I don't know if they've been competitive since we've been gone. Like we got
Well,
beat when we were in the streak, but that was it.
they do have some dead weight there.
Yeah.
Monroe is another one. Um, I'm trying to think who else, but yeah, I mean there's some low end stuff like the Conference USA has some more depth, but not as
Southern Alabama, maybe.
South Al.
I mean,
I
Georgia
mean South
Southern,
Al.
Georgia State, Texas State. I mean, I won't say they're dead weight, but they're new meat. So it's
Well,
kind
I
of like,
mean, well, okay. Texas State is looking like one of their better football teams.
okay,
South Al was the team that won a championship a couple years ago when we played them in the New Orleans
Troy. How about
Bowl.
that, Troy?
I mean, Troy is one of the top teams in
Yeah, I'm
football.
teeing up Troy because I hate Troy. But anyway, I
Yeah,
have
I
never
mean,
liked them.
yeah, I mean they have done a really good job, and there are a couple programs there like Ark State and Monroe, both that are abysmal. Other than that, I mean they have a pretty solid conference all around, especially in football.
I was just looking at a map to kind of give myself a view of what or where like teams were in each conference, and now I'm sitting here and I just pulled up a map for Monroe, Louisiana. I did not know that was towards the top of the state. I
Mm-hmm.
swore it was down towards the bottom, but
No, no, they're up
okay.
there
So
in
anyway,
the middle of nowhere.
yeah, but I mean, like you said, Appalachian State, Marshall, ODU's decent some years. ODU, I feel like, is like the middle of the pack, and
Mm-hmm.
at least in the Sun Belt. Coastal
Yeah,
Carolina is
yeah,
doing
that's a
pretty
good
decent.
example.
Go ahead.
Let's see. Well, we're just Old Dominion is a good example of one that could go either way.
Yeah,
Georgia State's one that was strong in basketball a few years ago, but they haven't done much in anything. Their football's pretty good though, so I think like it depends on what you're really worried about. If you love football and that's your focus, like I would think Sun Belt is a home run compared to Conference USA. But if you care generally about all sports, Conference USA brings some things that are better than what Sun Belt offers, and in some ways better than the AAC in certain areas. So, I mean, I think Conference USA has done a pretty good job of finding a way to be remotely relevant to all these other conferences compared to what they were a few years ago because Conference USA was a joke and now it's comparable. It's not quite there, but it's remotely relevant.
yeah. Of course, there are teams that are in the AAC that are competitive too in football. UAB, we've always had some form of issue with them. FAU's been decent several years, and then you got the Bulls, South Florida Bulls, and then of course you can't forget San Antonio, who's smacked us around the past couple of times. Sorry, I'm having to look at some of these because I'm like, who the heck is that? Um, I mean, Wichita State's normally pretty good in basketball, normally. Um, and Memphis is really good in basketball too. So there are aspects, I think, of both as far as the AAC is concerned that are decent. The
Mhm.
conferences
Oh
are
yeah,
definitely decent.
they
Um,
definitely have. I mean, the AAC right now, I think, is overall probably the best conference, but it's really, really close because of how good the Sun Belt is in football.
Now, the rumor was, and I don't know if it's true or not because I've had conflicting reports, that we were cuffed to MTSU to go for the MAC changeover, and MTSU balked, and we lost our opportunity. I don't know how true that is because I've heard reports that say, well, we really weren't tied to them, but they wanted to, and since
Yeah.
MTSU said
Well,
no, that they couldn't afford it. So, but go ahead.
yeah, now that UMass has already joined, they have an uneven number of schools. You can't do anything with 13, like when you try to sort out a schedule. Because it's a not to get too nerdy,
Really,
but
really,
it's a prime number. So it's really hard.
did you
Um
learn that in mathletes or what?
so anyway, but if you add one school now, a quality school, then it's a possibility that Western could be considered. Who knows if they actually would be interested or if we would be interested. But I mean, we were tied to middle because the MAC wanted to have
Two.
middle attached if we were coming so that we had geographical partner. So we brought in the Nashville market, Foley, whatever, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I think it was stupid to sell us attached to middle or to actually allow us to be really completely attached to middle in that conversation because it was like, we don't need middle. You can add someone else. We're a quality add. But instead, we just kind of like hitched our wagon to middle and hoped they would play ball and that everybody would be okay with it. But middle is not an elite athletics program. They just bring Nashville, sort of.
Eh,
And I mean, not even, they really don't, but that's the perception. They're sitting there in the
yeah,
national market or whatever. And so, but they bring huge negatives like having sucky programs
yeah,
and being on the decline when they were looking. I mean, and now you can see the only program that's worth anything with middle is their women's basketball program.
yeah.
So anyway,
Definitely true. Speaking of other sports, let me pull up some slides here. We're going to talk softball for a couple minutes, and then we'll talk some baseball. Just very quickly go over softball. And sorry, I'm looking through my slides here to make sure we got all these. There are so many freaking
but basically softball, baseball, yay, winning.
yeah, yeah,
Both have
doing
gotten
really
off to
well.
pretty good
Yeah, they're
starts, not sparks.
both doing very, very well. Speaking of, I got the slides pulled up here. WKU softball last Friday, the 23rd, they had a doubleheader. They played Detroit Mercy, and Western won 8-0 in 5 innings. And then Western beat St. Louis Billikens 6-5 in 8 innings. And then WKU beat Eastern Illinois 12-1 in 5 innings. And we beat the Detroit Mercy in 5 innings again on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we lost to the Billikens. I guess they were rubbing that Billiken belly. And Western lost 10-7, which is a very interesting turnaround. And then Western played Louisville on the 27th, which was Tuesday, as in yesterday, and lost 4-1. So that's always good to see. And
Yeah, very
so I'm going
respectable.
to very quickly here. That's baseball. Sorry. Okay. So Lady Toppers, this is okay. So this is what always drives me nuts with Western's baseball and softball. They have like 45 games in a weekend, and so I'm trying to include all these. So if somebody can go to them, you can go and support them. So Western is going to be at the WKU softball complex for all of these, unless it's noted. And then the Indiana game will be at Indiana. But on March 1st, which is Friday. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That is Friday. Western has a doubleheader. They're playing Dayton at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then at 5:30 p.m. they're playing Northern Illinois. On Saturday the 2nd at 12:30 they are playing Southern Illinois, and then at 3 p.m. they are playing Northern Illinois. And then on Sunday the 3rd they are playing Dayton at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then next Tuesday the 5th we will be playing Indiana at Indiana, and that will be on the Big Ten Network Plus. Everything's a plus now. And then quickly going to go over baseball real quick. And then we'll talk about it. WKU lost to Purdue Fort Wayne, first game on the 23rd, last Friday, 14-13. And then Western beat Purdue Fort Wayne on Saturday, both games 10-1 in 7 innings and 9-5 the second game there. And then on the 25th, Western beat Purdue Fort Wayne 5-0. And then yesterday, because we're recording on a Wednesday, the 27th, WKU lost to UK 5-0. Rather quickly here, Western. All right, back up. On the first, Western is going to be playing West Virginia, and that's at Nick Dennis Field. That's at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So go show up, support the Hilltoppers there. It'll be a pretty interesting day. You got those hillbillies from West Virginia coming down, so go support the Tops. And then on the 2nd, I got a typo here, but on the 2nd,
saw that.
1 p.m. Central Standard Time and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're playing West Virginia again. And then that should be, if I can see if I can write on it, that should be the 3rd. There we go. That'll be 3-3. I can write this. with my John Madden hands. 12 p.m.
Yes.
Central Standard Time, WKU versus West Virginia. Then they can go back home. And then on the 5th, next Tuesday, Western's got Bellarmine in Louisville. And then that game you can listen on 102.7 ESPN radio. So,
Good deal.
all right, let's get out of this.
By the way, big
so-
deal. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to talk about baseball too much, and I'm with you. But big deal to play West Virginia
At home, right?
So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
I
So
thought so,
just
too.
sidebar there. That is a huge opportunity to go see a Power 5 team in baseball. And I think
Yeah,
they
I
have like a
agree. I
really
mean,
big
it's-
recruit or something. They have a guy that's like one of the biggest draft picks or something. Somebody said something about that.
You may be right. I have not heard. Like I said, baseball, they just have so many games. It's just so hard to follow because it's
Yeah.
almost like, hey, didn't they just play West Virginia? And you're like, yeah, and they're playing them today and tomorrow, and then they're going to play them later today, and then they play them on the third Friday of the fourth month, and you're going, good Lord, can we slow down? But yeah, they it's almost akin to Western playing Vanderbilt at home, which we did several years back. To have an SEC team to come to Western, even though it's Vanderbilt, to have them to come to Western, it's always a big deal. So question for you, I know this is a little sidebar.
Sorry.
When does Western become that school that is able to say, hey, little school, we're not coming to you, you come to us? Like if we set up an agreement, when do we become that school that goes, hey, we'll play you in Nashville, but we're not going to play you at home? Wildcats. Kentucky.
Louisville did it too.
Anyway,
are you talking in baseball or just in general sports?
I was just talking Western general sports. I mean, football is more guilty of it, and basketball is too slightly.
I mean, to get to that point in most sports, you're gonna have to be nationally like elite to really be able to demand that as WKU. Gonzaga can do that. They've built up their program for the last 3 decades,
In basketball.
3 decades, for the last 25 years. Yeah, in basketball. I mean, they can legitimately be like, no, you're going to come to our place, and that's how it works. We're going to work a home and home with, Tennessee or whoever. They're able to do that. I mean, Western in whatever
But
sport would
I'm
have
sure
to.
I'm pretty sure Gonzaga's football team goes wherever though. Basketball, they could say whatever, but football, they're just like,
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously a specialty case of only basketball. But anyway, it's still a good example of a team that came from nowhere, that had no name, and then 25 years later is they can do whatever, they can demand whatever they want because they're an elite program.
yes, completely agree with that. Completely agree. Now the meat and potatoes today. We've got some Lady Topper basketball to talk about real quick. We've got, sorry, let me see, that's softball.
And by the way, I was looking real quick. JJ Weatherholt from West Virginia is the number 1 projected overall pick in the 2024 MLB draft. So it is, a chance to see the best player in America play at Nick Dennis Field on Saturday.
That's pretty cool.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I wish I knew how to switch these off instead of just having them up here so I could just fiddle with them. Anyway, so Lady Toppers fall short to the Mutts, 59-41. That's almost like a football score, right?
Yeah.
Western, I mean, if you look at these stats, I'm going to mark these up like ESPN does, but if you look at these stats over here,
Just like ESPN.
do these not look like men's scores or stats? They had 13 turnovers, which that's pretty good. 35 rebounds. We did out rebound them, like I noted, but we out rebounded them, but that was about it. They had 7 fouls. They were shooting free throws out the wazoo. They're hitting them, but almost 3 out of 10 on 3 points. and they're almost hitting about half their shots. So,
Mhm.
that's just wild to me to look at these stats and see how well that team plays. I mean, I hate to be that person, but MTSU just came in and took care of business like you should do when you're that kind of caliber women's
Yeah.
basketball team.
I mean, here's the thing is this is what concerns me. Okay. What Western actually played, real talk, they played their best defense of the year against Middle. I think they
Okay.
played their best defensive game against Middle this game. They held them to 59 points. They held them to the low 40s in shooting, which is fine. Like that's completely acceptable against a good team. Um, they held them under 30% shooting from three. They forced them to shoot outside. I mean, they took 14 more shots than Middle. Part of that's because they bricked a whole lot. But I mean, honestly, like they did a pretty good job defensively. What frustrates me and scares me, concerns me, alarms me, however you want to put it, is they look like they were scared offensively. Like they didn't know what they. I mean, they like if you want to beat a good team, like you come in and you act like you're better than them, and you come straight at them, and you go at them toe to toe, and you have some attitude and whatever. Well, on offense, like we did that defensively, and it kept us in the game enough that it wasn't a complete disaster, score wise and everything. But like we only scored 41 points, and most of it was in the second half. I mean, it was rough. Let me see if I can find what we did in the first half here. Um, yeah, we scored 20 points. Scored 20 points in the first half. We scored four in the first quarter. It's 14-4.
Wow.
And then the second
Good
quarter, we kind
Lord.
of got going a little bit, and it was more even. It was 17-16 in that quarter. And then the third quarter was we couldn't buy a shot, but we were engaging a little bit. But I mean, um, until the second half, I think we were just it just looked like we were scared or we're tentative, thinking about everything. And it's like, you can't do that against a good team. Like, I mean, if you got a shot, shoot it. If you want to be aggressive and get inside, like, be decisive and do it. And instead, it was just a lot of like passive, scaredy cat basketball. And it's just you're not ever going to win against a good team. And Middle's defense was just so, um, I mean, it was constricting and it made it difficult. And when you don't have Acacia Hayes, we've talked about that several times now, it's different. But I feel like this game was within our grasp if we would have shown up offensively and acted like we could have been, we belonged, and we would have had a chance. And that's what alarms me is like Caitlin Staley, who's your freshman center, yeah, is still like freaking out when she gets a foul call against her. She's just like, oh, like visibly just wound up about bullcrap that doesn't matter. Like there's some
Yep.
stuff that,
Just
yeah,
go
like
on to the next thing, right?
yeah, like I mean, you're now not really a freshman anymore. Let's quit acting like it. Like be aggressive and shake off that stuff and get pissed or whatever you need to do and go move on and be good the rest of the game, be competitive. That was what was concerning to me was like the lack of awareness that this is what we needed to do to win this game and we didn't do it. And I don't understand why. It's inexplicable to me.
So what I'm writing down right here is I just noticed a pattern, and it's just kind of I don't know if it's a guy thing or what, but Western did better in the even periods than they did the odd periods. Okay, here comes my math. Sorry, let me get this last number 46 and 59. So Western actually outscored them on the even periods. So in the first period, we scored 4 points. You got to the end of the period, like you said, we had 4 points. So 17-4. We get to the second period, we outscored them 16-14. Pretty decent if we didn't goof around and get scared and whatever. So coming out of half there, it's 31-20. When we finished that, Western scored 6. They scored 6 points in the third period, third quarter, whatever. And MTSU scored 15. And then the last period, Western MTSU scored 13. We scored 15. So we scored 30. If we had played up to our potential and actually matched these other two, so either 15, 16, whatever in the first and third, we're in that ball game. We're probably winning that game, easily. That's 60 points right there. We'd won by 1 point.
Yeah.
But like you said, I don't know if it's maturity. I don't know what it is, but it's very frustrating. And yeah, I get it. You kind of get wrapped up in the game. You get, adrenaline's going. You getting your testosterone rolling or whatever, and you're just like, rah! And you get a foul call on you, and you're just like, that's baloney. Because I play for Western, I can't get a foul call. But it's just like, come on. It's part of the game. Just move on. You just got to go to the next play, because people are watching you. I mean, that's what I learned in athletics years ago is you have people watching you. You have people who are going to emulate you. You've got little girls, you've got creeps and trench coats who are going to emulate you whenever they see you do stuff like that. That's for you. But
Thanks.
yeah. So,
Here's something.
Seriously, you've got little girls who are going to emulate that, and they're going to go out to their games and they're going to get a foul call, and they're going to be like, "That was horrible, ref," and he's going to be like, "I volunteer here. Why are you cussing me?"
Yeah, I could have called you for 7 walks on the way down to the court, but I didn't.
Exactly, but
Double dribble and everything else.
But my point is that Western, if they had actually done well, in their scoring here, they would have actually, if we could have matched the play that happened in the second period and the fourth period and the defensive stand that they did, because I mean, honestly, defensively, they did really, really well. That is the second lowest amount of points they've scored all season. The only other, and on a win, I'm saying on a win specifically, well, shoot, I pulled up the wrong one. I was at ours. I was like, oh man, no, it's not. But Western actually, I think the only other game that was this low of scoring points was MTSU versus UTEP, and that was 56-41. Again, 59 was us, but that's the lowest amount of points they've scored all year. Was 56.
Yeah, I mean, it was
on a win.
Yeah. It was a quality defensive performance. Like it really was. Like there was nothing that we did that I was like, oh, this was terrible or what a disaster. Defensively, it was fine. But
yeah,
one thing, my dad and I were looking, my dad's kind of joined the towel rack and he's now written a couple of articles and just published them within the last few hours while we're recording this. And we were looking at the lay topper statistics, and one thing that stood out that was really interesting that he noticed that I hadn't noticed yet. He said that WKU is second in made 3-pointers per game.
Really?
Also in Conference USA, but also 7th in 3-point shooting percentage.
Yeah.
So
that seems about right.
Yeah. So what happens is they're just cranking threes, and yeah, they make some, but they take so many that they're a complete detriment to themselves when taking threes. And so it goes to, like Coach Collins said in his press conferences and stuff that early this week, he said that, he wanted to get inside the post. No kidding, because you're like one of the worst shooting teams in the league, but you crank it every time you get a chance. It's kind of like MTSU's men. Like their men shoot terribly normally from 3, and but they take a ton of them, and so they're not a very good team because they take a bunch of threes and miss them. And so it's just interesting that the Lady Toppers have not figured that out or found some kind of way to turn that around a little bit, because you are screwing yourself by doing something that you're not good at over and over again.
So what I was just writing on there was Western, like Matt said, we're second in made 3-pointers, but we've shot 4 for 25 in this game specifically, and MTSU shot 8 of 28. So, I mean, yeah, they're hitting double what we are, but they're not taking near as many. I mean, they took 28 shots, but they made 8 of them. So they only missed 20 shots, whereas we missed 21 shots. But it's just really bad when you see 16% from three. It's almost like you really want to go, stop shooting the three. Quit it.
Well, okay, and this game is actually not a good example of what, like, percentage wise, we took 25 threes, but we took 64 shots. So it's not like we were just overloading it from three. We just couldn't buy shots. I mean, that's part of it was we didn't make anything. But I think it was more the body language, the attitude, the not effort, but like the focus just wasn't there.
I
Offensively.
thought you were gonna say the F bombs. I was like, really?
There's probably a couple
Foul!
of them. Yeah. No, but yeah, the F bombs were an issue too. Yeah, it's just it's frustrating that you finally get a good defensive performance, but you can't do jack offensively, and it's because of you, really. I think it really was them that was the problem. Middle was good. They were good defensively, but they were probably it probably should have been more like 59 to 50, 59 to 55, whatever. And then at that point, like you're in the game. You're in the game the whole time. Instead, they weren't even close and never really were. And it probably could have been a little worse than what it was. I mean, middle completely controlled the game the whole time. And it's just frustrating. Like we should be at this point with Greg Collins in his 6th year, you got to be toe to toe with middle. Yeah, middle's a freaking good program, good for Incel and whatever, but you ought to be toe to toe with them, and you ought to win once, like twice out of every 5 times you play them. At least.
Okay, so real quickly, we're gonna try and do a quick preview for this, but Lady Tops basketball will be playing. They got La Tech. That is tonight, so we're kind of talking about this in hindsight on ESPN Plus. But we are going to talk about Western versus FIU. That game is going to be in Diddle, I believe. Both those are on ESPN Plus if you can't make it. So definitely show up and support the Lady Tops there if you can be. So we'll skip La Tech. Western is 1 game ahead of La Tech. In the conference standings, we're 7 games out, and they are 8 games back. So what are you thinking about FIU?
Yeah, FIU is. I mean, it obviously depends on how La Tech goes. It is a big game. It does matter. So hopefully, WKU does win that game. But FIU, but basically the situation is Western needs to win one of these 3 games for sure, and they're not going to be favored in any of them. They're at La Tech. They're against FIU, who's 2nd. They're against Liberty, who's 3rd and been playing great, really big. And Western had no business beating them early in the year, but they did, which was nice. But I really don't see them beating Liberty now. But they're going to have to pull off an upset. And FIU is a tough team. It's in Diddle, so hopefully there's a decent crowd and stuff, and people are supporting them. But it's gonna be tough to overcome the loss of confidence, but also the loss of a really good player that could cause some problems for better teams in Acacia. So I'm hoping that we get at least one of these 3 to avoid the 8 seed. I think we still could lose all 3 and still not end up 8th. But also, it's ridiculous that we're even talking about this, considering that Western has been top 2 or 3 the whole season and has basically just melted it down and now is flirting with disaster of being in the play-in game on Tuesday instead of having a bye or being a top 2 seed like they probably should have been. So anyway, I think, I mean, don't expect much against FIU, to be honest. It'll be a really, really quality win if they do.
Yeah.
But I would expect, I mean, if you're just looking at how it should probably go, I mean, you should probably be thrilled if it's within single digits, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a blowout. Sadly,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
I
your
mean,
late job
it's
preview, bro.
yeah,
Go
it's
Tops.
kind of depressing here. Let's see, and then of course the actual depressing part is men's basketball here. We'll do a real quick recap for the men's. Western lost to MTSU, lost by 2, 74-72 down in Murfreesboro. You know, the 25% from 3-point land is definitely a detriment when they shoot 10% more than you do. And then we had 23 fouls. You know, and of course we're making free throws. So, you know, it's one of those that I've heard a couple of, well, we got some bad calls at the end. Oh, there was some ridiculous stuff that happened. What were your thoughts, bud?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely. First of all, yes, that crap at the end where they called timeout. The official tries to give it to him and then changes his mind and calls a jump ball when went back and looked at it, and Western wasn't even on the ball. I mean, the guy clearly had possession and is calling timeout. Should be a technical foul. Western was down 1, so Western should have gotten free throws to tie or take the lead, and then they should have gotten the ball after the free throws with 2 seconds left. So it
Yeah,
directly completely changed the game. However, Western should not have remotely been in that position. It was one of the worst played games of the whole season. Not in terms of effort. Like, honestly, I was proud of them in terms of how they played. They played hard. They fought. They got down and they came back twice. All that stuff. But they did not actually play well. They couldn't make anything. Sometimes, made some questionable, hasty decisions offensively, especially in the first half. There were some lapses defensively, allowing Middle to shoot 50% from 3. If you notice on the stats, I mean, it was 50% to 25% from 3. Generally, Western shoots about 33%. They shot 25. Generally, we shoot well into the 40s in shooting percentage, and we shot I think it was the 30s.
yeah,
Um, and then Middle generally shoots about 30% from 3, and they shot 50%. And a lot of it was because, especially early in the first half, we allowed them to get a rhythm by getting way out of position. I remember Jack Elam one time was supposed to be covering the guy in the corner, and he's outside of the lane on the other side of the court. And then they pass it over the defense, and he and his little 5'10" legs couldn't make it over to even get remotely close to contest it. Tegan Moore did the same thing where he got out of position early in the first half. So it wasn't that well played, and we allowed them to make those threes. The effort was there. Like, it wasn't like we weren't trying. It wasn't like we didn't play hard, but like we just didn't execute. We had 7 or 8 stupid turnovers. Like, yeah, we only had 12 turnovers. We probably should have had about 7 or 8 with how they honestly they weren't really pressuring us. Like, other than the dumb turnovers, we probably had like 4 or 5 turnovers that were legitimately like caused by Middle. And so it was frustrating. There's so many ways that you could dice up those statistics, dice up the way the game was played, that Western should have won by simply playing a little better, making a couple shots, finding a way to get certain players going, whatever it is, not fouling. Like, one thing that got me was, Babacar already has 1 foul and he's been playing a couple minutes, right? So what are you doing being mega aggressive when they pass the ball in on your guy and you got your hands on his hips? Well, they called a foul, which, yeah, it was borderline, but like, he was on him and he was up on him, and they called the foul and he sits the whole rest of the half. Well, that changed how the whole rest of the game was played, changed the fact that Marable had to come in, and he throws a layup off the side of the backboard from the front of the rim, which is whatever, stuff happens. He thought he got fouled, whatever. I mean, I'm not hating on Marable, but he probably doesn't really need to be in the game very much. And it was because Babacar, I think, got impatient and aggressive. Just little things like that, just kind of like, yeah, the refs probably called a game that was really tight, and that definitely plays to Middle Tennessee's favor in terms of junking up the game and making it less flowy, than a typical WKU game. But I mean, ultimately, we had our chances anyway, regardless of the refs, and that's where I blame 92% of it. It was our fault that we lost, really.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, it is our fault, but Western's fault. But the thing is when it is a close game like that, and you do have a screwed up call, which is basically what happened there, especially
Oh
with the
yeah,
technical and the timeout and all that.
100%.
Which do they not do a review play?
I
Like
don't
I think
think you can
NBA or
review
somebody
that.
could do some of those.
I don't think you can review that. That's like I mean, I don't know, but to me, it's a official's judgment call. What did he see? He thinks he saw a jump ball, regardless of whether they try to call a timeout. If he thinks it's a jump ball, then he's just like, I thought it was a jump ball, and you can't really refute that.
My
Like if
thing
it
is
was,
though, like even MLB reviews stuff now,
Mhm.
which would have been the last sport group, whatever I would have assumed would have had reviews of any sort. So
Yeah,
you'd think that like college basketball, the coach could at least say, "Hey man, can you look at that? There was
well,
nobody around him. You're calling jump ball. Who's jumping for it? You and him?"
yeah. Well, I mean, there are things that can be reviewed, but that's just one thing that I think it's like. I'm trying to think of another example, but like, it's just something that you can't. If he saw, like the rule for the official is, what did I see first? Did I see a timeout call? Did I see a jump ball? Whatever. So if he thinks he saw a jump ball, that's his call. It doesn't matter whether they called timeout. He saw a jump ball first, so that's his call. And
Yeah,
so whatever, he can get out of that and not get in big trouble. He's just like, well, I just made a mistake. Even if they show him the replay and they're like, it wasn't even close. He's like, that's just what I saw. That's what I called.
I
I
know my
wonder
truth.
if he knew.
I know
I
my
wonder
truth.
if he knew there were no timeouts and he knew it was going to be a technical foul and he knew that it was going to change the direction of the game, so he didn't call it. He calls a jump
Probably.
ball and lets chance, take its course. I don't know.
He knows that the people at Middle who paid him to do that aren't going to pay him, so he had to do what he had to do. Um,
Right. I mean,
I just
he got a bag of Chuck E. Cheese points and
I was going to
tokens, and
say
he wasn't going to miss out.
I thought you were going to be like he had a bag of
David,
doggy
but
doo waiting by his car at the end of the game. um, but real quick here, we'll go over Western Law Tech. I mean, there's not a lot for us to talk about because y'all aren't going to see this before the game. I'll try to get it out, but I can't guarantee anything.
Well, let's
Um,
just talk real quick about what it means. Like basically, if Western
it's a
wins,
big game. I mean,
yeah,
it's a big game for La Tech is a big game for Western. La Tech is essentially tied with Sam Houston right now because I don't know the tiebreaker situation, but record wise, they're both tied. So
Sam
Western
Houston,
beats La Tech at home, and that puts us up a game. And I think we've actually beaten them once this year, right? At Ruston.
yes.
I was going to say, so I thought
So
that was right.
we would have, if we beat La Tech, we would have the tiebreaker on them if we finish tied with them.
Yeah.
Um, I believe Sam Houston would have the tiebreaker on La Tech no matter what, even if they split, because Western is likely going to be the third seed, and La Tech will do no better than splitting. Sam Houston beat Western twice. But anyway, so like if Western beats La Tech, then it puts Western with the ability to put some pressure on La Tech. They play La Tech plays Sam Houston on Saturday, I believe.
I'll
And
have to look at
they
that,
play
but
them the
yeah.
next game. I'm pretty sure it's Saturday or like next Thursday or something, but
Yes, they have them on the 7th, which would be
so
next, like you said, next Thursday, I think.
next Thursday.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, they get a full week off and then they get to play them. But it's that one's for all the marbles. So A is La Tech looking past us. Also, if Sam Houston beats them and Western beats them, then Western will be even as long as we just win the last couple games.
Yeah.
So I mean, Western still has a great shot to possibly take that 2 seed, which is really important. So that's what it's about. If Western loses, they're the 3 seed and possibly could fall to the 4 seed.
Yeah.
If things go wrong because the 4 spot is kind of creeping up behind Western if we keep losing here.
Yeah.
So especially with that loss to Middle, the loss if we would have beaten Middle, that would have taken care of a whole lot of stuff, and we could have basically taken care of business, beaten La Tech, and we would have had the 2 seed pretty much. But now we're going to have to scrap and fight to even get the 2, and we need to win something to hang on to the 3.
I mean,
So
I'd almost be, I think if we do win against La Tech, then we could get the 2. However, some things have to fall into place that are out of our hands with Sam Houston La Tech. Because
mhm.
La Tech's or Sam Houston's beaten us twice. So they've got us
Yes,
there. However,
we can't pass them.
no, they've got us, as far as that goes. But we could get past La Tech
Actually,
here. Go ahead.
we can pass. There has to be like an 8 game parlay that happens for us to pass Sam Houston. So technically, we can pass them.
Hey, that would make some money right there, buddy. You get you an 8 game parlay going. Talk about our
Yeah,
bets, which we haven't
that'd
talked
be
about in
it.
forever. But yes, the game Saturday, FIU 6 p.m. and that's in Miami. So if you're in that area, go ahead and go to the game, support the men. But FIU is 6 games back, but you can't take for
Oh yeah,
granted. You got to just go down there, take care of business, and then sit on the beach and enjoy it for a day, and then come home. So, um,
yeah.
yeah, let me tell
There,
you what. After having a 4-year-old, that would be my motivation. I'd be like, all right, if you win, we will stay. We'll stay a night, and then we'll come back Sunday afternoon. If you lose, we're getting on the plane and we're going home because we have beaches at home. So,
that's it. That's it.
thanks.
Barren River
Uh,
Lake.
yes, you can go sit at the lake and freeze your butt off like the rest of us. But yeah, FIU is going to be a big game. We'll talk Liberty next week, but you just got to finish out these last two. Western is technically above both of them, but like you said, Jacksonville State and MTSU actually are knocking on our back door, as bad as that sounds. They're both 4 games back from us. So, if we screw around, they could
Yeah.
actually come up and pass us like you were talking about.
All we have to do is win 1 game in the last 3, and we won't be less than the 3 seed.
Yeah.
But we have to win one, and I mean, they definitely could pull something out, especially Jacksonville State. I think Jacksonville State plays the easiest schedule.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so they actually have a chance. I mean, they do play Sam Houston at the end, but that may be after Sam Houston's already wrapped up the conference. So who knows? But I mean, they are the one that poses the most threat. Middle has to play La Tech and Liberty and Sam Houston. So they're really unlikely to do anything
Yeah.
to catch us. But the point is, like, we just need to have momentum heading into conference tournament. If we get the 2 seed or the 1 seed would be incredible. But that would be like I said, an 8 game parlay. Like it literally has to be perfect for 8 games to go right. Um, and but the 2 seed is more realistic. We probably maybe have like a maybe 35 to 40% chance of getting that if we win out. So it's not
Yeah.
a great chance, but it's a chance, and we need to, take care of business. So we'll see how
Definitely a
it goes.
possibility.
And yeah, and FIU and Liberty both are dangerous. We're barely favored against FIU. were not favored against Liberty at all. So, I mean, we really are going to have to buckle down and find a way to win at least a couple here at the end, hopefully.
So I'm going to go over the upcoming days for sports, but softball, they've got some games going this weekend. Dayton, Northern Illinois, Southern Illinois, Northern Illinois, Dayton, and then they got Indiana next Tuesday on the 5th. So if you go to the WKU softball complex, they'll probably be playing. And then, baseball is, like I said, I got a little typo in my notes here, but they've got West Virginia this weekend, the 1st at 3 p.m. On the 2nd, it's 1 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Central. And then on the 3rd, that's a second there, but on the 3rd, the Sunday, it's 12 p.m. Central versus West Virginia. And those are all at Western on Nick Dennis Field. And then on the 5th, they're going to be playing Bellarmine in Louisville. And let me back up. There we go. Lady Tops tonight at Ruston, Ruston, Louisiana. La Tech on ESPN Plus. If you can't make it, watch, support the girls. And then on the 2nd, which is Saturday, they got FIU in Diddle. And then both those games on our FIU. And then tonight, La Tech, we need to win this one. It'll be finishing out the series. Is that game? No, that game's at home. I do have a typo there too. Goodness gracious, dude. Are you going to pay attention? Anyway, but yes, Moneyline actually has La Tech for 2.5. That'd be a good bet. I'm just saying.
Yeah, has it gone up to 2.5?
Yes, they have Western at plus 2.5. La Tech minus 2.5. But the money line's 110, so you bet $10, you make $10 tonight if they win. So it could be easy money for you if you put your money on it. And then Western is going to be playing FIU on Saturday. Both those games on ESPN Plus. If you can't make it to those, but if you're in the Bowling Green area, go support the Tops. Make it crazy. Matt will be there without his shirt on, so go support the Tops. And then we will be back next week to talk more Western sports. We do have a TikTok now, so I have started a TikTok.
Okay, cool.
So it's more or less my ramblings. Today was the question of, should we go to the MAC or not? Or is it just inevitable that everything's going to turn into the SEC? So there's that question. It's going to be the major SEC or the minor SEC. But yeah, if you want to give us a follow on that, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. I'm sure we've got one of those somewhere. But yeah, appreciate you, Matt, for coming out and talking. And check out the Towel Rack. They've got articles up all the time. And you can check out their Twitter. And they do game alert, text, tweets, whatever that's called. And yeah, so definitely follow us around. And we will keep you up to date on Western athletics. So we appreciate you listening this far. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, go Tops.
Go Tops.